You were sitting in a room full of men who would end your life the second they learned what you really are, and you were smiling at every one of them. For months now, you have been living two separate lives at once, and tonight, the space between them feels thinner than a razor blade laid against your throat. One wrong word, one glance held a half-second too long, and the men who call you family will make you disappear so completely nobody will even ask. But to understand how you ended up sitting in that chair, you have to go back to the beginning, before the wire, before the fear, before any of it. You were nobody special back then, just another kid from the neighborhood running small errands for men who mattered, grateful to be noticed at all by anyone. The money was small, and the work was nothing, but the belonging was everything. And belonging is the single most expensive thing that men like that ever sell you. Then one night the whole thing came apart around you, and you found yourself sitting in the back of a cold car that did not belong to anyone you knew. A man in a plain gray suit slid a folder across a metal table, looked you dead in the eye, and told you your entire life was about to change. He knew everything already. The errands, the names, the favors, the drop-offs. Enough detail to bury you underneath a mountain of years you would never climb back out of. Then he offered you the choice that was never really a choice at all. A simple one. Prison for most of your life. Or become their man on the inside. Wear a wire against the only people who ever took you in and fed you. Or lose every single year you had left in this world to a concrete room. You told yourself you had no choice. And maybe in some ways that was even true. But the guilt started the exact moment you nodded your head and agreed. They gave you a small recorder, cold and heavy against your skin. A secret that would ride under your shirt every single day from that morning onwards, forever. The very first time you walked back into that club wearing it, you were absolutely certain that every man in the room could somehow hear your heart hammering. The boss greeted you like a son that night, arms wide open, and every warm and generous word he said landed on you like a stone dropped into water. You smiled back at him, and memorized his words for the men in the gray suits, hating yourself a little more with every single breath you took in that room. That night, you sat at his table laughing at his jokes and eating his food, while a machine strapped against your ribs quietly remembered every word of it. Your handler met you in the dark afterwards, parked in a car with no lights on at all, hungry and impatient for absolutely everything that you had brought him. Every one of those meetings felt like a confession, spilling out the sins of men who trusted you completely into the waiting hands of a total stranger. You learned to breathe slow and to lie smooth, to carry two entirely different faces around, and to never once let the two of them meet in the same mirror. The wire became a part of you, taped down carefully each morning like armor, though you understood it could just as easily become the thing that buried you, and slowly, dangerously, the boss began to trust you more and more, drawing you further inward, closer to the very center of everything that mattered to them. The closer you got to him, the more they told you. And the more that they told you, the harder it became to keep breathing normally in those rooms. Every single secret you carried out of that building was another nail, and you honestly could not tell any more whose coffin it was that you were building. Weeks turned into months, and the double life stopped feeling like some temporary mission, and started to feel much more like a very slow and very quiet drowning. You recorded men over dinner while they laughed, then went home afterwards, and could not eat a thing, their voices looping over and over behind your eyes. The boss started asking you to sit in on business that no outsider was ever meant to hear a single word of, and you sat there and listened. Each promotion they gave you felt like a rope, lifting you higher and higher, while at the very same time tightening slowly and steadily around your throat. Your handler always wanted more from you, leaning across that dark car seat night after night, pushing you deeper into it than you had ever wanted to go. You begged that man for caution more than once, but caution is simply not the thing that men in gray suits are ever paid by anybody to feel. One night, a man clapped you hard on the back and joked that snitches always seem to think that they are the smartest ones in the entire room. You laughed along with him, though your blood had turned completely to ice in that moment. And then you did not sleep at all for the rest of that night. You stopped trusting your own face in the mirror, genuinely unsure anymore which one of your two lives was the one that was looking back out at you. Then came the night the boss quietly pulled you aside, put a hand on your arm, and told you there was a rat somewhere inside the family. He watched your face very carefully as he said those words, and you gave him absolutely nothing at all, because giving him something meant dying that same night. After that night, the whole family changed around you. Quieter meetings, far fewer words spoken aloud, and eyes that lingered on you a half-second too long. You began to see suspicion absolutely everywhere you looked, in a pause, in a glance, in the particular way that a door closed quietly behind your back. Your handler promised you protection whenever you asked, but protection is only ever a word, until the precise moment that you actually need it to be something real. You started keeping a bag packed by the bed, though you already knew that if they truly came for you, no bag in the world would ever be enough. Every telephone that rang anywhere near you made your stomach drop straight through the floor, because any call at all could be the invitation that finally ended you. You looked around at the men sitting at that table and wondered which one of them had already been quietly told to make you disappear from the world. The boss grew colder toward you as the weeks passed, his easy warmth replaced by a flat stillness that was somehow very much more terrifying than shouting. You told your handler that you wanted out, that you had given them enough already, that you could genuinely feel the walls of the whole thing closing in. He told you just a little longer, which are the exact words that every single doomed man in your position has always been told right before the end. That night, you drove home the very long way around, watching your mirrors the entire time, learning the precise and particular shape of your own private fear. You caught a man watching your building from across the street one evening, and when you looked back a second time, he had simply gone, like he was never there. Sleep stopped coming to you at all, and in its place sat a hard certainty you could not shake loose no matter what you did, that they already knew. The trap, when it finally came for you, would not look anything at all like a trap, and honestly, that was the most frightening part of the whole thing. One gray afternoon, the boss called you personally, warm and easy as an old friend, and asked whether you might come by the club for a quiet talk. There was no reason given to you for the meeting, and in the world that you lived in, a meeting with no reason was a reason all by itself. You knew then, the way that an animal knows the exact moment the air changes around it, that this was the day you had been dreading for months. You called your handler immediately, and for the very first time in all those months, the man in the gray suit simply did not pick up his phone. You stood alone in your room listening to it ring out into nothing, and you understood, at last, completely and finally, exactly how expendable you had always been. You could have run right then, and every part of you was screaming at you to run, but running only ever changes the place where they eventually find you. So you put on your coat and your steadiest face, and you went out to meet them anyway, because in the end, that is simply what you were. The drive over there was the longest one of your entire life, and the whole city slid past your windows like a place that you had already left behind. The boss met you at the door himself that night, embraced you like a son, and told you warmly how much he had always trusted you above all the others. And there in his eyes, sitting quietly behind all of that warmth, you saw that he knew everything, and that he had known it for far longer than you feared. They walked you together toward the back room with a friendly hand resting on your shoulder, the way that you walk a close friend or a condemned man. The door closed behind you, and the warm golden light of the club narrowed slowly down to a thin line, and then narrowed further, and then to nothing at all. Nobody heard anything at all that night, and by the following morning the family spoke about you only in the past tense, and then very soon, not at all. Somewhere else across the city, a man in a gray suit quietly closed a folder with your name on it, and reached across his desk for the next one. You had given those people absolutely everything that you had to give, and in the end, every last thing you gave them was simply filed, away, and then forgotten. This is the truth that nobody ever bothers to tell you about living between two different worlds, which is that both of those worlds will eventually let you fall. The family carried on surviving perfectly well without you. The men in the gray suits moved on without you, and the city itself never paused for even a moment. Nobody who informs from the inside ever truly gets away from it, because the fear does not end on the day that the actual danger finally ends. If you remember only one single thing from this entire story, let it be that some doors, once you have walked through them, will never let you back out again. Because loyalty and betrayal are really just two different names for exactly the same trap, and that trap is always sitting there, open and patient, waiting for someone. So the next time a room full of smiling men calls you family and pours you a drink, take a moment and remember what that word can really end up costing. If this story managed to hold you all the way to the end of it, subscribe, and I will take you somewhere every bit as dangerous as this next time.